biopic of Madonna, directed by Madonna. Finally, John Stamos breaks his silence on his late friend Bob Saget. In an interview with CNN, Stamos said, quote, "He started popping into my life when I needed him the most, when I needed somebody, and then vice versa. And then we just got closer and closer and closer, and we ended up just being there for each other during the happiest and the saddest moments of our lives." Stamos will honor the life and legacy of his friend in a special called Dirty Daddy, the Bob Saget tribute, premiering tomorrow. New Day continues right now.
Hello, I'm Brianna Keeler with John Berman on this new day. The CEOs of more than 200 companies coming together this morning to demand action on gun violence. The House's January 6th committee gearing up for prime time. The new evidence expected to be revealed.
A man charged with attempting to murder Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Why the California man says he made the cross-country trip to the justice's home. And this photo highlighting the horrors of the Vietnam War turning 50 years old. The child and the photographer join New Day.
Good morning to viewers here in the U.S. and around the world. It is Thursday, June 9th, and this morning, something new. CNN has learned that the CEOs of more than 220 U.S. companies will release a letter today demanding the Senate take immediate action to reduce gun violence. The letter calls gun violence a public health crisis that devastates communities and costs American taxpayers, employees, employers, and communities a staggering $280 billion a year.
It does not endorse any specific policy proposals or make any new ones. Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, who's the lead Democratic negotiator in the Senate gun safety talks, had this to say on New Day just moments ago about the prospects for a breakthrough.
I don't think you can be anything other than comparatively optimistic. I have never been part of a negotiation that's this serious. Our group continues to grow in size. No one has walked away from the table. I mean, listen, I still think there are more paths to failure than there are to success, but we've never gotten this far on complicated, comprehensive negotiations before.
More optimistic than he's ever been, and it is worth noting that Senator Chris Murphy, he's been in the middle of this for 10 years now. He was the congressman who represented Newtown, Connecticut after the Sandy Hook massacre. He is now more optimistic than ever. I do want to turn, though, to the letter from these CEOs. Joining me, CNN Chief Business Correspondent Christine Romans and Business Correspondent Rahel Solomon. Romans, talk to me about this letter. Sure. We have business leaders saying there's an economic reason for this.
And they're saying the Senate in particular needs to act immediately to end or reduce gun violence here without, as you mentioned, any specific recommendations. But here's what they say. They say every day 110 people die of gun violence in this country. 200 are shot and wounded. And they say this, guns are now the leading cause of death among children and teens. This is their employees, their customers, their communities that they work in this letter. Each death means another empty chair at the dinner table, another empty seat in the church pew or the classroom, another worker missing on the assembly line. And they make this direct connection. They say there is clearly a toll, a personal toll on families and communities. Communities, by the way, that are less investable, harder to, start new businesses in communities that have been ravaged by gun violence. But they draw this line specifically from just the personal toll to the economic toll. It's just not good for business to be in a country where the leading cause of death for children and teenagers is gun violence and how it ravages communities. And just, that line, workers missing on the assembly line. They're making a very direct connection from gun violence in American communities to their business and their employees.
What it does create is another pressure center for Congress to take action along with voters and constituents. If you have business leaders, it does change that dynamic perhaps a little bit. Rahel, I do want to focus on the economic news we all woke up to this morning. Gas prices at $4.97 a gallon, very close to $5.
Gas prices continue their climb higher, and this week we also got two warnings from two major economic think tanks, the World Bank and the OECD, slashing their global growth forecast. So it's not just here in the U.S. where we're seeing some slowing growth, but also around the world. And we know we're so connected globally. So what happens in the rest of the world impacts us. The OECD saying that its inflation projections now stand at nearly 9% in 2022, twice what they were previously reporting and expecting. Part of this, of course, a big part of it, the war in Ukraine and its impact on commodities like oil, but also China COVID lockdowns. Who's to say with the next variant what we might see in China, if we might see more lockdowns and the impact that will have on supply chains around the world?
That warning from the World Bank seemed particularly bleak to me.
Yeah, I think certainly more bleak than the OECD. I mean, we're also hearing these words, stagflation, and Christina and I were just talking about this before. I think the only thing more scary than recession is when folks start to talk about stagflation, and that has three components. It has high inflation, which we know we are already with. It also has very high unemployment, which we don't have, and it has slowing growth. And so some are questioning, because we have two of those three components, might we start to see high unemployment? We are so far from it. We're at 3.6% according to the last reading. That's pretty much a 50-year historic low. So we're very far from that, but it does have people starting to sound the alarm. And whenever you start to use that word stagflation, it really creates a lot of unease.
Yeah, we're really far away from stagflation. And there are economists who think it's almost does the public a disservice to be talking about it so much. We're not heading toward the 70s, at least not yet. But it is so sharp and fresh in some people's minds and in market makers' minds that they worry about what could happen here in the U.S. We are so far from that double-digit unemployment that it would take. Rahel's absolutely right. What could it take to get to a 10% unemployment rate? I don't know. We didn't predict many of these things that got us to where we are right now, to be quite honest. But we do know that inflation is expected to be with us here and stubborn for the foreseeable future. Tomorrow we'll get a CPI number. The forecast is, again, 8.3%. You're talking about a 40-year high for inflation. So we'll get that number tomorrow in exactly about 24 hours.
Christine Romans, Rahel Solomon, thank you both very much.
The January 6th committee is ready for its close-up. They hold their first public hearing tonight, and it's happening in prime time. They will use it to lay out the case that former President Trump was at the heart of a conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election and prevent the peaceful transition of power. The committee plans to show previously unseen video of private testimony with Trump campaign officials and members of his inner circle. Also, there will be two live witnesses, Capitol Police Officer Caroline Edwards, who was among the first injured by rioters, and documentary filmmaker Nick Quested, who had unique access to militia groups who took part in the attack. And there will also be some never-before-seen footage of the violence at the Capitol. The committee says to remind people what is at stake. CNN's Pamela Brown has more.
After a nearly year-long investigation, the January 6th committee will share its findings with the American people tonight. In a preview, aides said they plan to zero in on President Trump.
I think that Donald Trump and the White House were at the center of these events. That's the only way, really, of making sense of them all.
Aides said the committee will connect the dots between Trump's election lies, his attempts to stop the transfer of power to President Joe Biden, and the violence at the Capitol. While Trump was impeached by the House just days after the riot for inciting the pro-Trump insurrectionists, the committee says it's uncovered more since then.
The Select Committee has found evidence about a lot more than incitement here.
The committee has interviewed more than 1,000 witnesses behind closed doors, including Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Rudy Giuliani, former Attorney General Bill Barr, and obtained more than 135,000 documents.
We must also know what happened every minute of that day in the White House. Every phone call, every conversation, every meeting leading up to, during, and after the attack.
The committee is clearly signaling to the Justice Department, which holds the power to charge Trump with a crime related to January 6th.
Do you believe it was a conspiracy?
I do. It is extremely broad. It's extremely well organized. It's really chilling.
Just this week, a federal judge again flagged possible evidence of a crime. That same judge issued a landmark ruling earlier this year, finding it was more likely than not that Trump and a conservative lawyer committed a crime and strategizing to overturn the election. Trump has not been charged with a crime and has denied any wrongdoing. he continues to downplay his involvement in the deadly insurrection while bashing the committee's work as another, quote, witch hunt.
January 6th, what a lot of crap. It's another con job, just like Russia, Russia, Russia.
But for 187 minutes, committee members say Trump was derelict in his duty, watching TV, and seemingly pleased supporters were fighting for him, even as Republicans pleaded for Trump to intervene in text messages to his White House chief of staff.
It is a roadmap, and I would have to say at this point, I think Mark Meadows is the MVP for the committee.
Deborah Riggleman advised the committee, helping to decode Meadows' texts among the more than 2,300 messages obtained by CNN. Donald Trump Jr. texting, he's got to condemn this shit ASAP. Meadows responding, I am pushing it hard, I agree. But it took Trump over 3 hours to release this recorded video.
So go home. We love you. You're very special.
When you look at the totality of the evidence, it's pretty apparent that at some points President Trump knew what was going on.
Well, the hearings are not only expected to explore efforts to overturn the election results, but also the role of far-right extremist groups. 1 month after the election, Trump tweeted about the protests in D.C. on January 6th, and then the following day, the Proud Boys began to plan for the rally, knowing they might have to break the law to stop the certification of votes. That's according to a plea agreement from one member of the Proud Boys who is now cooperating with the federal investigation. The DOJ escalating that criminal case this week, charging several leaders with seditious conspiracy. John and Brianna.
All right, Pamela Brown, thank you for that. And joining us now are two law enforcement officers who responded to the deadly insurrection and were viciously attacked by rioters. U.S. Capitol Police Sergeant Aquilino Ganell and CNN law enforcement analyst and former D.C. Metropolitan Police Officer Michael Fanone. I will remind people that you both actually testified before Congress in the wake of the January 6th riots. And as we are looking towards this event tonight in prime time, what are you, Sergeant, hoping to see?
I'm hoping to have the committee lay out who were the people who were orchestrating and who planned January 6th, so we could hold everybody, although anyone of those people who took part, accountable on that horrific day.
And what else are you hoping for?
I want to see the evidence. I want to hear the witness testimony. I want to hear from the individuals that were deposed. And we heard that there were over 1,000 interviews conducted, depositions. I want to hear that testimony.
What do you hope that people take away from this? Maybe people who don't necessarily believe what happened, or who haven't had the attention span to pay attention to every little thing as it has come out in the news. What do you think that maybe they can take away from this?
What they could take away is that this one was not a coincidence, that everything that happened, that it was planned. So we could stop it from happening again. Officer would put our life in danger on that day to protect them, and the least that they could do is lay out all the information, like Michael said, the evidence, so everybody get it all at once instead of trickling down piece by piece.
How important is it, just in your day-to-day work, in going to your job, in having faith in your job and what you're doing, to have that happen?
It's hard because, you know, the very same people who we protected, they downplay and still don't recognize that Officer Signey and the Living Good and some of the D.C. Metropolitan Police officers died as a result of that day. And on January 6th, they knew who and where to place the blame. And then a couple of days later, it was nothing. Nothing happened that day, and started deflecting and what about this and what about that? And it's very disappointing because we risked our life on that day to give them the chance so they could do their job once they return to safety.
To that point that you made, there is some newly released audio that shows a Republican member of Congress asking for a safety plan for Republican members ahead of what happened on January 6th. Here it is.
I also asked leadership to come up with a safety plan for members. I'm actually very concerned about this because we have who knows how many hundreds of thousands of people coming here. We have Antifa. We also have, quite honestly, Trump supporters who actually believe that we are going to overturn the election. And when that doesn't happen, most likely will not happen, they are going to go nuts.
Michael, what do you think listening to that?
Well, first, I think it's pretty incredible that members of Congress were not aware of some type of contingency plan for any type of potential violence at the Capitol. And that's a failure on the House and Senate Sergeant of Arms and also on Capitol Police's leadership. And those are, three entities which I still have not seen a lot of accountability. If you want to rebuild the trust of law enforcement in its own agencies, as well as the community, accountability needs to be had. That being said, this Congresswoman can add her name to a long list of Republicans who have, privately spoken truthfully about January 6th and what was expected and also what occurred, and then publicly reversed course. And one can only surmise for political purposes.
I agree. It's like I said, on January 6th and the next couple of days, they knew where to put the blame, and they also were scared on that day. And it's very shameful and disappointing that on that day they did do that, but then they publicly they changed course and say, you know what, spin it. Let's see how far we get with it. And the sacrifice that we did that day, it should mean something. It should mean something.
We're in a new period of heightened threats. Michael, we're hearing this from DHS. There are a lot of concerns here in the coming days as we are expecting Supreme Court rulings to come down. What do you worry that we might see in the midst of all that, in the midst of these hearings?
A repeat of January 6th. My experience in criminal prosecutions, once people are exposed to law enforcement's response, they learn, they adapt, and they change their tactics. So, would we see an event at that scale? Maybe, maybe not. But certainly there are people that are watching, they're paying attention to what law enforcement has done in response. They're paying attention to the criminal prosecutions and how the Department of Justice is pursuing each of these individual cases. And they're going to adapt. And they're going to potentially be more extreme in their activities and actions to accomplish what it is that they want to accomplish.
Yeah, I agree. Another aspect of it is that this happened here, and with the information that's coming out, people were involved in high places in our government. And you have already an impeachment, which is the political remedy for things like this. If this doesn't get any type of accountability or remedy, this is bound to happen again. And then the person in the White House could act with impunity, including the people who work for him. As you seen, Mike Meadows and others had not complied with the subpoenas. So what is there to stop him next time? Will they do this with impunity if they ever get back in office? Most likely. So that's something to be worried about.
That you're obviously very worried about. Sergeant Mike, thank you so much to both of you for the conversation ahead of what is going to be a very momentous evening. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern, join CNN for special coverage to hear new details on what was going on inside the White House as the Capitol was being attacked on January 6th. An armed man arrested near the home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, and it's now adding pressure to Democrats to pass protection legislation. And an NFL coach now saying sorry for downplaying the attack on the Capitol.
Plus, is Pennsylvania's Republican Senate candidate, Dr. Mehmet Oz, registered to vote in the Commonwealth? We do have a fact check ahead.
something new each and every time. On my way, on my way.
Back in person, the 2022 Afreximbank annual meetings will bring together high-profile continental and global leaders to harness and leverage Africa's incredible potential. Register now.
June 20th, a CNN concert event. Let's celebrate, educate, and lift every voice. Juneteenth, a global celebration for freedom. Live from the Hollywood Bowl, only on CNN.
Forced labor looks different in different countries and different sectors. My name is Jonas Astrup. I'm the Chief Technical Advisor for the ILO Third-Party Monitoring Project in Uzbekistan. And I've been based in Tashkent for the last 4 years. Uzbekistan is the 6th largest producer of cotton in the world, but the cotton harvest in Uzbekistan is the world's largest recruitment effort, with approximately 2 million people picking cotton every year from September to November. And ILO has been monitoring the cotton harvest in Uzbekistan for child labor since 2013 and for child labor and forced labor since 2015 under an agreement with the World Bank. We have witnessed incredible changes during that time. 2 million children out of child labor and 500,000 adults out of forced labor. We have seen wages increased by over 600%. We have seen the number of labor inspectors doubled and perpetrators punished. Forced labor and child labor is now a criminal offense in Uzbekistan. We've seen awareness raising campaigns to make sure that people are aware of their rights, and we have seen a liberalization and a privatization of the agricultural system. There's still work to do in Uzbekistan, but I think it's fair to say that Uzbekistan is a success story in the world of work.
This morning, the man found near Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's home, armed and reportedly planning to kill him, is behind bars. Officials say the 26-year-old traveled from California to the justice's Maryland home, and there he called emergency services and said that he was having suicidal thoughts and that he had a firearm in his suitcase. He's now charged with attempting to kidnap or murder a U.S. judge. FBI agents raiding his California home last night. He told investigators he was upset about the leak of the Supreme Court opinion draft related to abortion rights, and also that he was upset about the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and worried that Justice Kavanaugh would loosen gun restrictions. Joining me now is Democratic Senator Jon Tester of Montana. He is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs, which is actually a big reason that he is on here to speak with us today because of a groundbreaking bipartisan bill that he is championing in the Senate that is poised for passage. First, though, sir, I do want to talk to you about this incident at Justice Kavanaugh's house. What is your reaction?
Well, I mean, it's absolutely unacceptable what transpired there. I mean, that's unfortunately threats to public officials are happening far too often, and it doesn't matter what level of government, whether it's a Supreme Court or a school board member. And I think that we've got to take this stuff very, very seriously. And folks need to be punished to the full extent of the law. I mean, the truth is public service is very important in this country, and we can't have intimidation out there that will prevent people from being able to serve this country in positions from school board to President of the United States and everything in between. So it's totally unacceptable. Obviously, a person in this particular case that has some pretty serious mental health issues that needs to be dealt with sooner rather than later.
Could members of your own party be better when it comes to their rhetoric? I ask you that. Yes, the Senate unanimously passed a bill to protect justices and their families, but House Democrats have not moved forward on that. And you've heard the comments from your own Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Should members of your party be more forceful? Should they be better with their rhetoric here?
Well, look, absolutely. I mean, you can say that on every issue that comes down the pipe, that we can do better in getting the message out that the American people need to hear. But oftentimes, you know, and I don't understand why the House hasn't taken the bill up on Supreme Court justice security. I don't, and I can't pass any judgment there, but I will tell you they should take it up and they should pass it and get it to the president's desk. And we do need to talk about things like background checks, for example. You know, we've had so many shootings in this country, it seems like it happens on a daily basis, and that's unacceptable. You know, a gun is a tool. It's a tool, and you need to understand what tool can do, and it can do a lot of damage if it's used in the wrong way. And so I think we need to have background checks to make sure that criminals and folks who are court adjudicated mentally ill, terrorists, I believe they've lost their Second Amendment rights. We should not allow them to have guns. And so let's get some background checks done, get it passed in the Senate, get it over at the House, and let's talk about those sort of things. But most importantly, Brianna, we ought to debate these issues on the floor and figure out if we can find some common ground. You know, keep the outside groups out that are trying to influence, do nothing or to do everything, and get some common sense legislation in when it comes to protecting the people of this country.
A huge burn pit bill clearing a key test vote in the Senate Tuesday. Burn pits, of course, are these flaming trash piles, sometimes acres in size, that blanketed many bases in Iraq and Afghanistan and other combat areas in carcinogenic smoke. What is this going to mean for veterans?
This is going to mean that the United States government, the American people, have lived up to their promise that we make the men and women who serve in uniform so that they can get the benefits and, quite honestly, when it comes to these conditions, the health care that they have earned with service to this country. Look, we make promises to the folks in this all-volunteer military. We made promises to the folks when we had a draft that we'd take care of them when we got back. If they'd been changed by their duty to this country and their service to this country, we'd make sure we made them whole again. We've done some good things in prosthetics. We're working on some good stuff in mental health, and I think we'll get our arms around that sooner than later. In toxic exposure, though, we have failed and failed miserably. This stuff's been around for over 100 years, from mustard gas to World War I to radiation in World War II, Agent Orange in Vietnam. This bill addresses some of the Agent Orange condition, hypertension mainly. And now we've got burn pits for the post 9/11 veterans. And so it is time we step up. It is time we make sure we do right by our military. And it's time we get this bill passed, get it to the president's desk so we can move forward.
I always implore people, even if they're not military connected, to pay attention to this because they're footing the bill for it. This is a bill that is going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars over years. And the bill says that 23 respiratory illnesses and cancers that are believed to be related to burn pit smoke are presumed to be connected to a veteran's military service, which is so important for them when it comes to getting the health care that they need. Will it also make it easier for them to get the disability benefits that they need in the case that they cannot work?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's part of it too, and it's a big part of this bill. And you're right, this bill has a high cost figure. I believe it's $287.5 billion over 10 years. That's almost $28 billion a year. But this is a cost of war, and for those folks that want to debate that issue, I would say the best time to debate the issue of the cost of war is before we send our men and women into battle. And if we're not willing to take care of them when they get home, we ought not be sending them into battle to begin with. This completes the cost of war.
86-12 in the Senate. Why do you think it didn't get so much support in the House?
This is a little bit different bill than the House had, and I will tell you that I give full credit to the Democratic caucus. I give full credit to a good number of Republican members who serve on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee about getting out there and explaining what this bill does. And as I said before, I said this on the floor, there's reasons to vote for and reasons to vote against every bill that comes down the pipe. This is a big bill. You can certainly find a reason to vote against it if you want and a reason to vote for it if you want. But the truth is, this is too important to this country to try to find a reason to vote no. We do need to get this bill passed, Brianna. It has been decades in the making. It is the #1 issue for every veterans group that is out there. And its time has come. We've worked hard over the last year and a half in a bipartisan way to get this bill to the point it is. 86 is a big number, and it's one of the reasons why we got that is because we've been communicating to folks about how important this legislation is. And by the way, more importantly, the veteran service organizations, the folks who represent the people who fought in the field of war have been out there talking about this issue day in and day out for the last decade, but really hard the last year and a half.
Yeah, this covenant that the nation has with its fighters, they don't always make good on it, but this is certainly a big instance where they are. And Senator Tester, we appreciate you being on to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
An NFL coach apologizing this morning for comparing George Floyd protests to the insurrection.
Plus, happening now, the U.S. Marines still waiting to find out the status of 5 crew members after an Osprey military aircraft crashed in California.
Out front tonight, a potential breakthrough in treating coronavirus.
We've gotten very little help from the federal government.
Could all this spending lead to a bigger economic crisis? One of our viewers saw you last night on the show. She says she's going to pay your rent this month. Shut up. I want to go now to an incredible story of survival. Would you do it all again in terms of being a nurse, knowing that that could put you at risk for this?
I want to help people more than I ever have.
Aaron Burnett out front on CNN.
I'm Jim Bitterman in Paris, and this is CNN.
The start of a new era. Golf gets set for the opening tee shots of its new Saudi-backed breakaway league. The Celtics give the Warriors reason to worry in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. And powerful words from Dwayne Wade and why he's suffering sleepless nights. Hi, thanks for joining us. Welcome along to World Sport live from London with me, Amanda Davis. It's the new golf series threatening to drive a wedge through the game. And for all the controversy in the build-up, the start of the Live Golf Invitational Series is finally upon us. The field of 12 teams and 48 players is set to tee off for the inaugural event at the Centurion Club just outside London in 30 minutes' time. Former world #1 and 2-time major winner Dustin Johnson is there alongside 6-time major winner Phil Mickelson, Sergio Garcia, Lee Westwood and Ian Poulter, amongst others. They have all faced tough questions about their decision to join the Saudi-backed breakaway tour and the impact it will have on the long-term future of the game. Rory McIlroy, though, is just one of their rivals who's opted against the move. And he's warned it might not end well for them.
You know, I'm not, certainly not knocking anyone for going. It's their life, it's their decision. They can live it the way they want to. But for me, I want to play on the PGA Tour against the best players in the world. And I think for me, I was speaking to a few people yesterday, and one of the comments was any decision that you make in your life that's purely for money usually doesn't end up going the right way. Obviously, money is a deciding factor in a lot of things in this world, but if it's purely for money, it's not. Never seems to, it never seems to go the way you want it to.
Rory McIlroy never shy of making his point heard. Let's cross live to the Centurion Club, though, and join my World Sport colleague, Alex Thomas. Great to see you, Alex. I mean, Rory, this week in Canada, defending his title on the PGA Tour. And it really gives us an insight, doesn't it, into how divisive this new tour is and is set to be amongst Ryder Cup teammates and friends in many cases.
Yeah, it's a good question, Amanda, actually, because it does start to feel like a bit of a family feud. And I hadn't thought about it like that until I read your question and thought what I'm going to say in response to it. Because you're right, there are plenty of players here for this first event of the controversial Live Golf Invitational Series who would normally be in Canada right now, just preparing for another PGA Tour event alongside some compatriots, but also Americans and Europeans who go head-to-head in Ryder Cups, great friends the rest of the time, and are used to having a banter on the driving range or the putting green together. So no wonder it's caused so much debate, so much controversy, and leaving aside the Saudi Arabia funding angle for a moment, just between colleagues, some have chosen one route, some have chosen another, and it's caused a lot of division. One other person to comment was the recent PGA Championship winner, Justin Thomas, who I think was slightly more philosophical than Rory.
It's a bummer. I mean, I think a lot of us are, I don't know if annoyed or tired is the right way. I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, I've thought a lot about it, and it's like, look, like people are entitled to choose as they wish. It's like, I don't dislike DJ now. I don't think he's a bad dude. I'm not going to treat him any differently. It's like he's entitled to choose as he wish. And I think that the day and age that we live in now, it's just so negative that, I mean, you see it in everything, sport, politics, whatever it is. It's like if you disagree with someone, you just feel that you're entitled to like hate them and talk bad about them and just bash their decision when everybody's entitled to their own opinion. You know what I mean? It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't make him a bad person. Now I'm disappointed and I wish that he and others wouldn't have done it, but that's their decision.
Ultimately, this always comes back down to money, Amanda. The winner of the PGA Tour event in Canada this week will get around $1.6 million. The winner here, $4 million. Its total prize pot is $25 million, making it the richest golf event we've ever seen. That's why the PGA Tour and Europe's DP World Tour are so worried.
And it's not only about money, is it? As soon as these PGA Tour or former PGA Tour players hit a ball where you are at the Centurion Club, there could be some pretty big consequences for their futures if the organisation is to be believed. I mean, what do you think is likely to happen?
It's really hard to speculate, but of course, the players on the practice range behind me haven't done anything wrong yet, haven't broken any rules until they hit a ball in competitive action. Many of them, like Dustin Johnson, like Kevin Na, Louis Oosthuizen, to name a few, have resigned their membership of the PGA Tour just to sort of avoid any possible sanctions. Phil Mickelson, we know, says he wants to hold on to his lifetime membership because he has earned it. But there is a growing momentum around this Live Golf project, and Ian Poulter, who is here this week, suggested as much when he said that some of his fellow pros will be keeping a close eye on things.
I definitely see other top players, watching on this week and wanting to be a part of it. I feel, there's a huge investment coming into the game of golf and sport in general, of which, definitely other players will be looking in with interest this week, and I think they'll want to come and see what it's all about.
We already know that as well as the confirmed players, someone like Bryson DeChambeau is the latest to be linked with this project, all but confirmed that he'll join, along with the likes of Patrick Reed and even Ricky Fowler for the first event in America, which is the second of the 8 stops on this initial season of the Live Golf Series. We know the PGA Tour didn't grant any exemptions to its players, so maybe when they tee off at around 2:15 p.m. local time, that's 9:15 a.m. Eastern, I wouldn't be at all surprised if there was suddenly an announcement from the PGA Tour scheduled for around the same time, possibly to steal the thunder of this tournament. But there's already an acknowledgement amongst golf insiders that they might have to start working with Live Golf, as Live Golf initially offered, because otherwise they could get crushed by them if they don't work with them in some way. The interesting thing as well is that I've just spoken to organisers in the last hour who've confirmed they have applied to the official World Golf Rankings to get ranking points for their events, and that would also be a game changer for this controversial but fledgling series, Amanda.
Yeah, we know the importance of ranking points. We're talking about it in tennis in the run-up to Wimbledon as well, aren't we? But listen, you know, the controversy around this event is not going to go anywhere. I'm fascinated to hear what it's like on the ground. I can see the weather possibly not doing organisers a favour, but what is the atmosphere like where you are? How much excitement, how many fans are there?
There is a buzz. It's a small buzz, but it's here compared to yesterday's last practice day when it was absolutely dead, bar the amazing organisational structure they put in here. I mean, Live Golf are keen to brand this and build this as something innovative, and we can show you what they mean about that if we take a look at some of the facts we know about the 48-man field. There's 18 top 100 players here, 3 ex-world number ones, 7 major champions, 20 players under the age of 30, including a 15-year-old from Thailand. There are players from 12 different nations and 5 continents, and plenty for the fans to enjoy, plenty of interactive things. There's lots of live music, including on the driving range as well. No headphones for players that individually want it. A Coldstream Guards band, Black London cabs to ferry the players out to the tees. They'll all be on 16 different tees, and they'll all start together in this shotgun start. One innovation's happening in Sweden right now on the DP World Tour, the European Tour as it used to be known. The men and the women are playing alongside each other for the Scandinavian Masters. The difference is their prize fund is $22 million less. So it comes back to money again. The only thing Saudi dollars cannot buy, Amanda, is any better British summer weather.
And possibly some positive headlines. Alex, for now, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the action. I look forward to speaking to you later. Now, after Game 3 of the NBA Finals, the Golden State Warriors found themselves down. But are they and Steph Curry out? Find out after the break.
When you dream more, you need to move more. With over 45% of sub-Saharan Africa using mobile money, innovative digital payment solutions are giving people financial freedom. Access FacePay uses AI to make transactions more secure and accessible for over 31 million customers. Access. More than banking.
コーヒーの持つ力って人と人をつなぐ力だと思ってて、うちの会社のビジョンっていうのは日本のコーヒーといえばフィロコフィアってなることなんですよ。からそれを達成するには世界に向けた通販が必要だったんですよね。
20,000 naira for free. 20,000 naira bonus. Is your line blocked? Then move to Glow.
I'm reconnected.
Because we've all reconnected. And it's simple. Dial *109# and link your NIN to your new or existing Glow number. Get up to 20,000 naira for free with Glow.
20,000 naira bonus free.
Yes, so free.
Niger, what are you waiting for?
Welcome back. The players were putting their bodies on the line, quite literally, in Game 3 of the NBA Finals, and what proved a disappointing night in Boston for the Golden State Warriors. Not only were they beaten, but Steph Curry was left limping. So let's cross live to CNN Center and join Coy Wire for more. Coy, great to see you. What happened and what does it mean for Game 4 and going forwards.
Yeah, man, it had to be some bad sort of flashback for the Warriors fans and Steph Curry. He had rolled his foot in the regular season against the Celtics. Ended up missing a month, and it happened again Wednesday night, but this time he has less than 48 hours to get right. These Celtics came to play in Game 3, Amanda. Beantown crowd getting loud for the Celtics' first home game of their final series with the Warriors. The Celtics running up an 18-point lead at one point, fueled by a franchise record-tying finals first quarter by Jaylen Brown, scoring 17 of his 27. Celtics bounce back. They're fighters. They haven't lost in back-to-back games this entire postseason. Their trio of Brown, Jason Tatum, and Marcus Smart combining for 77 points, a 116-100 win. They were on point like decimals, Amanda.
Just being focused and locked in and everybody competing and being on the same page. You know, we're going to need that, obviously, you know, to get the job done.
What we hang our hat on is effort on the defensive end and being a physical team. So it definitely woke us up a little bit. And we just want to come out and, you know, if we were going to come out here and play, the last thing when we left that court, we didn't want to say, well, we weren't physical enough. And it worked out for us.
Dye my hair like that, Amanda. Now, hey, despite Steph Curry dropping a game-high 31, this loss means that the Warriors have now lost 4 of their last 5 road playoff games, and that was that scary moment for the two-time league MVP late in the fourth. He's scrambling for that loose ball, and his foot was smushed by Celtics' Al Horford. He's at the bottom of that pile. He was pinned down in pain. After the game, though, he was asked about the chances of missing Game 4, and he did say that he thought he would be good to go, Amanda. Game 4 will be back in Boston Friday. Celtics with a 2-1 series lead now, and there seems to be even a little more fuel to this fire as this series continues on.
I have to say, Coy, there's not many who give you a run for your money in the fashion stakes, but Marcus Smart is up there.
You got me.
Great to speak to you as always.
You too.
Now, we have a 3-time NBA champion coming up next. When Dwayne Wade speaks, you've got to hope people sit up and take notice.
Our kids are not safe in school. This has went way too far. And I know everyone has their beliefs in this world, but can we just all be human for a moment?
Our challenge was to determine the best ways for our citizens and visitors to safely enjoy the Tokyo they know and love. Tokyo is a fascinating city that integrates both tradition and innovation. As governor, my first duty is to keep Tokyo safe. We cautiously monitor the global and local situation, consulted experts on safety measures, and began to apply new policies so Tokyo could begin to open. As we prepare for travelers from around the world to visit again, we look forward to welcoming you and hope these new measures make for a safer and happier environment for everyone.
Back in person, the 2022 Afreximbank annual meetings will bring together high-profile continental and global leaders to harness and leverage Africa's incredible potential. Register now.
Welcome back. If you've been watching CNN in recent weeks, you'll have seen the continued coverage in the wake of the tragic killing of 21 people, including 19 young children at a Texas primary school. It came just days after 10 people died in a shooting at a supermarket in Buffalo. It has led to a host of sporting franchises joining the calls to implement stronger regulations on gun ownership and control in the United States. There were T-shirts worn in the run-up to games. The New York Yankees and Tampa Bay Rays have used their social media accounts to raise awareness of the tragedy of gun violence as well. And you cannot forget the incredibly impassioned speech from Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr.
When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm sorry. I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough.
Never loses its power, however many times you see that. But now former Miami Heat star Dwayne Wade has admitted he has sleepless nights over the dangers his children face when they go to school. He has lost several family members to gun violence over the years, as he told CNN's Poppy Harlow when they sat down at the Time 100 summit.
My kids going to school right now doesn't allow me to sleep at night very well.
Because of guns?
Because of guns.
Yeah, me too.
Guns has been, in my family, it has not been, a positive in my family at all.
Your cousin died to gun violence.
I've lost a few cousins to gun violence. And, I grew up in the inner city. I had a lot of cousins that was, in gangs that I lost, but I lost a lot to senseless acts of gun violence. My cousin was taking her kids to school and got gunned down. And so for me, when you're a parent, everything goes out the window of whatever your thoughts are, your beliefs are of, hey, this is what I stand for. Just the other day, I feel like as people, we all shift a few days ago. I think we continue to keep shifting. We shifted in Parkland in Florida when it happened. It shifted our mindset. It shifted how, think about this. When we grew up, we went to school, it was just, hey, kids off to school, that is the safest place to be. Don't be out on the street, go to school. And now it's not the safest place
I
to
wait
be.
for 3 o'clock every day.
Yeah, I'm afraid being
Every day.
here and not being in LA close to my kids.
Yeah.
Now, we were just talking about this at lunch. And just to share a story, I went to my daughter Zaya's recital at the end of the year. And beautiful recital. These kids have worked amazing. They worked hard for this. But the whole time, all I could think about is my exit. All I could think about is what I'm going to do. My daughter's backstage. My son's right here.
How do I get out?
How do I get out? But how do I get to them? How do I protect them? How do I get them out? How do I, I'm just thinking about that the entire time.
That's not normal.
No.
But this is America. So you tweeted after the Uvalde shooting what seemed to be, to me, a message to lawmakers. Tell me if it wasn't. Why have all that power and not do everything in your power to protect our children and our elderly? Who were you talking to and what were you saying?
Yeah, I was talking to the lawmakers. This world is ran by money and power. And, to me, this is all it is. This is a money thing. This is a power move. And we're losing. Our kids are not safe in school. This went way too far. And I know everyone has their, beliefs in this world. But can we just all be human for a moment? Can we all just understand that our kids are losing their lives, right? And they're not getting a chance to become. We're sitting in here and we've all had a chance to become something. Our kids not even getting a chance to become anything. And so for me, it was like, listen, let's just take all the politics out. Let's take I'm Republican. Let's take all it out. We're human. This is a human act that's happening, and it's sad.
And what if they don't again? What if they don't act again? What if Washington doesn't change anything?
Keep getting louder. Keep screaming. Keep supporting the people on the ground that's doing things. We have foundations. We have Social Change Fund I'm a part of. We have all these things to be able to help continue to fight. That's what it was when we took that stage with Carmelo, Chris Paul, myself, and Melo. It was about, hey, we got to put pressure. And we're going to take one of the biggest moments in sports to start to show off this way to put pressure. And that was 10 years ago. And here we go,
again.
Right back here again.
Well, these laws only change by the people who change them, right? So I didn't think about asking you this, but I just thought, would you ever run for any sort of office?
I'm not there yet.
Another political answer.
I've never thought about that. I have no idea. I would not say no as I sit here.
Okay.
But I'm a parent. I'm a community. I'm a community leader. I'm a part of the community. So I think it gets to the point sometime where you just there's only so much you can do. Right? I think sometimes all of us, we feel hopeless. We feel helpless sometimes. There's only so much we can do. So I don't know. But it's not in my future, not in my 5-year goal.
That was not a no, but listen to those words. Our kids aren't getting the chance to be anything. Can we all just be human? Yes, please. Now, as legend has it, the Rolex Jour is an event that was created over dinner in Paris back in December 1952. This week, it celebrates its 69th edition. Here's more in our Rolex Minute.
The Rolex Juralia, a fixture of Mediterranean sailing, begins this week, culminating with the renowned 241 nautical mile offshore race commencing June 15th. For the first time in 3 years, the event, organised by the Yacht Club Italiano in collaboration with the Société Nautique de Saint-Tropez, will again see the picturesque town on France's Côte d'Azur take centre stage, acting as the regatta's glamorous send-off. The fleet then sailed to La Formique turning mark, and then to the Juralia Rock, the undeniable symbol for the entire race, before finally finishing off the port of Genoa. Created as a means of fostering friendship between Italy and France following the Second World War, the competition now attracts a world-class field of sailors, all attempting to break the course record of just under 15 hours.
I'm Nick Watt in Los Angeles, and this is CNN.
June 20th, a CNN concert event. Let's celebrate, educate, and lift every voice. Juneteenth, a global celebration for freedom. Live from the Hollywood Bowl, only on CNN.
Just 4 days after seeing their World Cup dreams ended by Wales, Ukraine's players regrouped to produce victory over the Republic of Ireland in UEFA's Nations League. Like in Scotland and Wales in recent weeks, Ukraine were given a brilliant reception at Lansdowne Road, with fans showing their solidarity for the players taking part despite the war still raging at home. They were by far the better side in Dublin, but in the end it was just the single goal that made the difference.